Modern Warfare 3 Zombies is finally here, and for anyone that's only just hopping into this game mode, just know it's quite different from the zombies we're used to. Instead, it's a lot more like Outbreak and DMZ from Cold War Zombies and Modern Warfare 2, and I'm going to be giving you 30 useful tips and tricks to help you stay afloat and get started inside of this wasteland. Tip number 1 is to always bring a weapon. Back in DMZ, I actually used to go into a lot of my matches without a weapon, because it was really easy to just find one lone enemy, stick a throwing knife in them, and then pick up their weapon and go from there. You wouldn't be risking your contraband, and it's a good way to add to your weapon collection. In Modern Warfare Zombies though, it's a lot deadlier out there. If you try going into this with no weapon, you're gonna get destroyed. It's not very easy, considering zombies don't drop weapons, meaning you'll have to rely on looking for crates or finding an AI enemy that's wandering around. The thing is though, they're not as common as they are in DMZ because of the zombies being the main focus. So if I were you, I would make it a priority to bring a weapon into the game. It sounds obvious when I say it like that, but if you were like me back in DMZ and you enjoyed going in with no weapons and just building yourself up from there, then you'll be a little shocked this time around. Tip number 2 is to avoid going too crazy in cars. Listen, I'm a State of Decay lover. Hitting zombies with cars is something I love doing, but in Modern Warfare Zombies, these cars may as well be made out of glass. They are so extremely fragile, and if you're not careful and not paying attention to the car's health, that is very low usually, it'll blow up with you inside of it and it'll be an instant down. Yeah, it's something I've totally never done before. However, if you do want a safe way to travel, taking a nice boat ride is a very good way to get around, as well as easily navigating your way through the tiered zones. Are you in need of a better weapon? Or maybe you're stuck with a gun that you don't like at all? Maybe it's underpowered or just not to your taste? A really neat trick here is to go onto your map and look around for mystery boxes, or you can do it the classic way and look for the big blue light in the sky. Head over to it and there's a good chance that some players have been spinning the box, swapping out a bunch of weapons and leaving them on the ground, just waiting to be picked up by you, and they are free weapons. So you can scavenge the scraps that they leave behind. Desperate times call for desperate measures, so don't feel any shame in it. You can pull some solid weapons from this. So maybe you're not as desperate as me, and you just want to get the points to be able to get a mystery box, or buy a weapon off the wall. Whatever it is you need them for, a surefire way to make sure that you get points, and fast, is to go around looting cash registers in places like shops and gas stations. Usually you'll find 100 or more essence in them, and it's a great way to get some quick points. And whilst I'm talking about looting, the next tip to keep in the back of your mind is that logical looting does exist still, much like it does in DMZ. Logical looting is the line of thinking that wherever you would expect to find a certain item or equipment, you would actually find it in the game. An example there being the points, the money of this game mode, the essence as it's called, can be found in cash registers, because you know, that's where money is stored. If you need self-revives or stim shots, take a stroll to a medicine cabinet and look in there. Knowing this, you'll be able to maximize your looting and know what to prioritize and what not to prioritize. It usually tends to be a lot more beneficial to look in something like a cash register or two, get a couple hundred essence, then look in a locker or something and get like 20 points worth of stuff. Headshots, normal kills, and melee kills weirdly all grant the same amount of points. There's no reward for headshots anymore really, except for camo challenges, so if you're trying to maximize your points, don't worry too much about going for those critical hits. For our next tip, and this is one I had to learn the hard way, whatever you do, don't get cocky and go balls deep into tier 2 and 3 as soon as you spawn in, unless you've got the right gear for it. When you're just starting out, or say you've died and lost your stuff, and you're back to 0, don't do this. It's very easy to see that border on the map where the zones change and think, nah, it can't be that difficult. Take it from me, it gets a lot more difficult if you're not prepared. You most likely are going to get game ended if you do that. Considering the 45-minute timer, you might actually not have enough time to do everything you want to do in a match. Say if you're trying to push deep into tier 3 and do some challenges, get some loot, etc., it's going to take some time to prepare for, and by the time you get there, you might only have about 10 minutes left of your match. So it isn't a bad idea to dedicate a match or two for farming crystals, tools, weapons, perks, and equipment. You'll be able to exfil with this stuff and carry it into your next match and get a head start to do whatever it is you need to do. And once you do hop into that next game, as soon as you spawn in, open your map as soon as possible. Start looking for things to do and objectives to complete, or anything that catches your eye. You really don't want to waste time aimlessly walking around hoping that something is going to come to you, because although you can come across things, I find I get more done in a match when I actually look for stuff to do. When you take on a nest of zombies, which are these areas filled to the brim with zombies and gross gunky stuff, make sure you shoot the spores to clear it out. Because not only do you have to wipe the zombies out, but those spores need to be popped too. And another tip here to keep in mind whilst you're in those zombie nests is to not worry about having a gas mask too much. There's this gas in the area that can damage you over time, but it only takes off a really small amount of health every tick. And although a gas mask is obviously recommended, you may as well take the challenge and go ahead and just go in there. Keep popping armor plates, try not to get battered by zombies too much, and if you need to go outside and recover some health, do that. And that applies for real life too. Make sure you go outside. The zombies' ether containers that are found in those nests contain some nice shiny loot in there a lot of the time, and they're not only in these nests. Keep an eye out for them in the world. They seem to have some of the best loot I've found. HVT missions, which are high value target missions, are honestly quite manageable with a squad, and sometimes you can even solo them and can get some good rewards, XP and points. If you're scaled to the right power, they won't take too long, and if you have the option to do these, I recommend it. And there's no human enemies during those missions, so take that one as a blessing. Those human enemies can and will beam you. They will get the laser cannon out and fire away. It's like being hit with a railgun. Much like the tier 2 and 3 zones, do not underestimate these guys. They can down you really quick, so tread lightly. This next trick is a simple one, but it's useful. You can shoot stuff whilst doing other stuff, and what I mean by that is when you drink a perk, use some armor plates, and hold equipment like stun grenades, you can still shoot your weapon. So if there's zombies intruding in the no-no square, then you can blast them away and get armored up whilst doing it. Weapon rarity in Cold War Zombies is back in this, and this applies to war weapons too, so you can buy a different rarity war weapon, and depending on that rarity will determine its overall damage. The order of colours go from worst to best: grey, green, blue, purple, orange, and gold/yellow, and those gold ones usually tend to be wonder weapons. Say you need protection from the oozing stench that was the campaign of Modern Warfare 3, but can't find any gas masks at all in your game, which it can happen, wait until the timer ends and then exfil. The helicopter that picks you up, much like DMZ, will bring them. You can find them on the seats and pick a bunch of them up. These will stay on your operator into the next game. Up next, make it a habit to pack a punch before moving on to the higher tier zones. Without a decent weapon, you are reduced to nothingness. The zombies are gonna treat you like you're a child that has just picked up a controller for the first time after getting the game for Christmas and will wipe the floor with you. I have made the mistake a lot going into other zones without pack-a-punching, and it has cost me every time. And whilst you're thinking about pack-a-punching weapons, I'm actually gonna say here, don't bother trying to upgrade both of them in a single game. Focus on just one and get that up to tier 3 pap so the weapon is as strong as it can be, and then use the rest of those points to focus on equipment, perks and kill streaks. Usually you simply won't have enough time or points to upgrade both of your guns fully. This one will save your sanity. If you can, always try and have a Gersch device equipped, aka those black hole grenades. I do not remember the name of those. The LT53 Casimir grenade. Yeah, I'll stick to calling them Gersch devices. Having one of these can be a game changer in those higher tier zones, and when things get too dicey, slam dunk one of those bad boys onto the ground, watch a black hole open up and suck zombies into it, giving you the edge over the horde or a good window to escape. These are hands down the best equipment in the game. Don't run off from your team. We've all made the mistake, especially in this game mode. It won't end well most of the time, so don't do that. Moving swiftly on, pick up random valuables you can find around the world and sell them at a buy station to rack up those sweet points. It isn't like cash in DMZ, it's a lot more useful when it comes to zombies, considering you can buy yourself perks that make a huge difference, pack-a-punch and all that jazz. If you're ever struggling for points, this is a good way to do it. Those chonky dark ether anomaly Margwa things are way more difficult to fight than they look. They have a leap attack, they can slow and stun you down to a crawl, making you easy prey for a horde of zombies, and they'll eat you up faster than that ice cream scene in the SpongeBob movie. They have a laser they can shoot out of their mouths, which will deal a lot of damage, so make sure you're always on the move with these guys. Keep your distance and shoot the glowing mouths. If you recognize them at all, it's because they're on Forsaken on Cold War. These ones are like them, but on steroids. PhD Flopper is a fan favourite, it's a goated perk, and we're all hyped to see it return. What makes this even better than the first time we ever got PhD is that it activates without any height limitations. You can literally dolphin dive on flat ground, from flat ground, and you'll blow up. So flop away. That sounded really weird. I will never say that again. Tombstone is a perk that we all like to dunk on every now and then, but funnily enough, Tombstone has had a Giga Chad style glow up and is now one of the best perks in the game. If you die with Tombstone, you'll be able to pick up your stuff in the next match you play. Meaning, in a game that's all about losing and gaining loot, this is the insurance policy we all need. It's one of the most helpful perks you can get. If you do get Tombstone and you do die in that game, when you're in the next one, if your stuff is available to get, you'll see this icon on your map where you died, and you can ping it, go over to it, and retrieve your stuff. Tip number 27, whatever you do, don't queue solo until you're much better at this game. This is recommended as a co-op mode, but you can queue into a game with no fill. I feel like it's going to take a lot of time for people to start running solos, considering this mode right now isn't very easy. So once you build up that experience and that confidence and that skill, maybe then try and be a lone wolf. Choosing to melee with a gun or throwing knives or your fists isn't all that viable, especially in the tier 2 plus zones, but even then that's pushing it. Zombies tend to be quite spongy when it comes to melee damage. That is of course without having a dedicated melee weapon. I wouldn't rely on it to save your skin and get you out of a pickle. Just resort to rapid hip firing instead. Our second to last tip is going to be when the timer runs out, don't panic. You actually have plenty of time to escape. You have 15 minutes once the timer runs out and the storm starts closing in. All you have to do is get a vehicle and focus on driving straight to an exfil zone. What I'm saying is it's not game over the second the timer's up, and considering it's not PvP, there's a lot less pressure to go to an exfil site when you take into account that you don't have the added pressure of getting mowed down. And for our final tip, tip number 30, whilst you're on your way to get out of the zone, if you can, make sure you exfil with a full backpack, filled to the brim with various valuables, so that when you successfully get out and the game ends, they'll be sold for XP and you'll have maximized your experience gain. And those were 30 tips and tricks to help you survive in Modern Warfare Zombies. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, be sure to smash the like button, comment your thoughts on these tips. If you have any more tips, feel free to comment down below. I'd love to discuss it. Subscribe to the channel if you aren't already, you won't regret it, and turn on the notification bell too to stay notified whenever I upload another Modern Warfare 3 Zombies video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.